In the name of the system admin, the most benevolent, the most merciful, the most advanced. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another lecture. And so today, I was thinking about like how toxic I have been to myself. And so my mind wondered, okay, I have examples of failure from the past, I have examples of failure in the present. But what would happen to failure in an advanced civilization, in the most advanced and aware state of human conscious existence? What would failure be? And so, what I have realized in this lifetime so far is that every view I've had has never been the final view, and there is an expansion in human perception from an epistemological personalization of meaning to a recognition of its impersonal impersonalized meaning. That means we're not just accessing the perceptions of a world, we are giving meaning to everything that we are seeing. And what we don't realize is subconsciously we have accepted a meaning to the context before we wonder about the meaning. You know, Sun Tzu, this dude in the art of this general, in the art of war, he shared this principle that you should not go to battle if you have not seen victory. You should not step in the ring if you have not, in your inner realms, already seen how you're going to be victorious. You know, that means pretty much two generals of two different armies back in the day are pretty much two humans trying to, in their inner realms, begin to probabilize and envision what will happen. Now, in Sun Tzu, The Art of the War, he says the general that aligns to the heavens. Now, people take that literally. They think higher land, but not necessarily. That means he was such a conscious human being that he realized it is not just man's life. That means humans. Humans fight each other, yet they don't understand where they are fighting. There is the presence of more than human, and I'll get to that. The fact that the youth are interested in aliens and you know, they want to contact aliens before even wondering about the true nature of where they are. It's like that strange moment. If you ask me where I am, I can make a noise. I can tell you in sound the word, but the world is unknown. This is the most important truth. It has been unknown, and everybody's got it the wrong way. You know, it has been faith based from the beginning. People, religious people, even sometimes they go and tell people, like, yo, man, just have faith. It's like, buddy, everything has been functioning with faith. It is through the ability of the positioning of the net where there has come the view of articulation. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the era of the pure cultures has ended. This world was never designed so that nations can maintain their specific cultures forever. It's gonna infuse because that's the point. Pretty much, we haven't even seen it yet. It's so far in the future, I think. Not that far, but I'll give it like 100 years or something. And it's so interesting. Life gives you different perspectives. Sometimes it puts you in a position where you value the world, and then the world doesn't value you. Sometimes it puts you in a position you don't value the world values you. And it took me a while to realize it's all about roles of the human intellect. How have we truly been alive? This was an incredible song, by the way. Oh my God. Dear viewers, there is a research component, and then there is my voice, and it is how far we can all go. You will soon realize that you have been personalizing everything, and it's okay for now because you didn't know better. But once you know better, you cannot live like the common man, for the common man is oblivious to the nature of its position, the value of its being, what is truly in the world room, and what watches it all. O humanity, it may appear that you are alive once, but you may express patterns that will echo beyond you. There has been, considering a 300,000 year range, 117 billion human beings that have ever existed. Currently, 8.1 billion human beings are alive, which means of 7% of all human beings that have ever existed are currently existing. We're not just a statistic. We cannot be. There isn't that many of us. Comparing comparison to the cosmic expanse, and we as a species have to unite, and that's when the true humanity begins. You don't understand. This is not humanity. This is the preparation. I call it civilization 1.0. And I urge the species to live as if you're in your inner realms, you're in civilization 2.0. But you will realize at some point that the nature of reality is that it is designed not to keep the same moment the same. So as long as we're conditional beings, we cannot ignore life is about handling conditions. And it occurred to me something very bizarre. Now, I don't know how healthy this view is. You know, there's a reason. Some people tell me, "Hey, man, you know, why don't you go to therapy?" If you have childhood trauma, and I tell them it's because I don't want to be a therapist. You'll get that joke. Dear humanity, we're not just a bunch of random freaks in the book. We're not just people, who are just archers. I'm like, when I look at the human mind, when I look at human intelligence, I'm like, yo, archery practice. People are gonna be like, what do you mean archery practice? All right. This is one of those kind of like rolling into a different vibe songs. Yes, there are, when you open your eyes on Earth, yes, you do see an incomplete system, but you got to ask yourself, is the incompleteness from within or without? And the answer is it's from both. To be honest, this is the situation we all are in, and I don't care, if you want to smile or frown or keep doing backflips, regardless of how humanity functions. It is an honor that we are lacking. And if I ask you, oh human species, what do you honor the most? And it's funny because the answers of 8 billion human beings is that I honor that vision I see behind my eyes. I see that I honor the desire what I want to become. That's it. That's what all of you are doing. 8 billion human beings just honoring what they only see that they want to be, not realizing that to build an advanced civilization requires a civilization to advance together. There's no other way. That means it's like I don't care what perspective we need to get the job done, but it's very obvious that we are in a position. Oh, humanity, this is the Mr. Withinian call. None of you know me. I don't know any of you, but I have looked long enough in the mirror to realize that I am a member of the human species, as you all are. And so we shouldn't care for our personal emotions and views. We must care for the impersonal value because seldom is this said, oh, humanity, you are in a hilarious world. You assume yourself to be the problem. You understand, and your whole life you're trying to solve it, only to realize the problem you were trying to solve, if it was only your problem, it was temporary. They're like, yo, man, would you rather solve your own problems in your lifetime or the problems of the species? I would say it doesn't matter if I'm outranked for my existence, or if I'm underranked for my existence, the position I find my attention in. There is one thought. It's as if, like, think of it this way. I open my eyes, all the information of this world is accessed, and before I make a decision, there is one line of code. I'm not somebody, I wouldn't say I'm like a being that's divine, or if I am, then we all are in a divine field. But I'm saying I consider myself a person that, as if the average human life starts with this biological code, this biological code leads to psychological, subjective ego code, and then this ego code, in some sense, it feels it is the only thing in life. It is the most intelligent moment, intelligence. It is the most intelligent intelligence in the room. And the moment it believes that, it begins acting like the context of reality is the concept of itself. That means, well, sure, you can call a person narcissist, or you can say a person who has confused their world with themselves. To me, the human being doesn't have a problem, because ultimately you're a force. Yeah. Like, let me say it this way. When we look at human, let's say the word human being, okay, or human intelligence. Okay, you have the being, you have the intelligence part. Okay. Sorry, guys, was changing the song. It's a story not as old as time, but as old as the future. Sorry, not as old as the beginning of time, but as old as the beginning of the future. You know, it is. I have some views that are so uncommon, and sharing them, I'm trying to be silly and share it through the guise of silliness. You know, but you don't understand the intensity of this reality. It is so funny. I have laughed, I have cried, I have, in some sense, roared and screamed. I have, in some sense, been a coward and been brave. I have been a fool. I have been wise. I have been ignorant. I have found clarity. And I'm telling you that I noticed something about the source code. And the only reason I could do something is that because I chose humanity before I chose myself. And I'll explain it. As a shy, introverted individual, okay, which meant that I was more comfortable observing reality rather than participating in it. And this was like a huge, like Rubik's Cube level mystery for me to solve. Like why, when I was young, I felt there was a force field that was not allowing me to be a self. It wasn't even like, I don't know how to explain it. It was something that had not made it okay for me to accept being part of the moment. And it was because I had this assumption that the world is older than me and I should respect the world. But I didn't realize everybody's experiencing the moment for the first time. But that wasn't the issue. It was at the time, like, years ago, I called it a karmic, again, force field or exile. I felt like but now I understand it was mercy. Okay, but at the time I was like, what the F? But what it was that the system admin was like, all right, human being, I am going to privilege you with the opportunity to exist among others, and yet I will not activate your spirit. And I was like, what the fuck? Why? It's like others can, their spirits are activated. But little did I know that the system admin was activating my spirit behind my eyes. And I began being a presence in a way that in this lifetime, it's very strange. Because I accepted myself as a stranger early on, there is nothing strange here. It is so easy to see behind the scenes of the meaning you overlaid, and in the crack of the world you built for yourself behind your eyes, you see the dawn of a light that was even brighter than what you knew. It is the rise of a species. That means I was like, all right, man, I can't get a victory, but can the moment still advance? Like, I didn't even have the consciousness of advancement. I'll tell you, there has been one theme in my soul. Like, if you could look at souls from an aerial view and be like, okay, that soul made that sequence of decisions. There was something about in the outer realms. I don't know how to say it. It's like I am not acquainted to its speed. Existence has its own mind. And now this mind will be explored. In my youth, silence was my friend. Not being anything was a friendly state. I was not a stranger to the nature of not having, like, let me say it this way. How do I say it? There's this thing where Jordan Peterson, in like parenting, in one of his lectures, he was giving this parenting tip. And he's like, parents need to have rough and tumble play with their kids when they're like very young, right? In the sense that the human being at a young age understands that it can express itself in different ways. But you see, the issue is we don't know how smart the ego is. I should say that. So I guess this is what requires to be said. They have limited your understanding of reality, and when I say they, it was the past's best attempt. The world you know has conditioned you to acknowledge one quadrant and one fourth of what is actually going on in this world. There are four corners to this position of our awareness as human beings. Today, these 4 points, quadrants of reality will be explained. But the most important thing to keep in mind is that we find ourselves in the simulated lower power position, and we have a role to express ourselves naturally. Do not forget it, that in the same way the light nourishes the plants in their growth, the light of awareness in regards to what new findings enter your awareness expand you. You're growing alongside everything that's growing, and the ultimate realization is that the original state cannot be conditional. So, guys, keep in mind there is a research component. I'm going to continue on um, with explaining what I was saying about the ontological nature of reality. Human beings cannot ignore the unknown. In the middle of the unknown, we're all acting like we know what everything is. This is obviously a simulation, just like our body is a simulation, just like this moment that I'm communicating and saying these words is an energetic simulation. Ultimately, it's about how intelligence moves, or what is the most intelligent act, or in some sense, where is the true original moment of reality. If we are in a simulated position, where is the original Earth? Where is the original world? We won't even call it Earth then. What is the original world? What is the original being? Is there anything to us that appears original? Do we act like a force that has been commanded to exist? Or do we, in some sense, treat the nature of reality, that position is not randomly, spontaneously here? There's two views. Either out of nowhere, matter has balanced itself in the middle of nowhere, or in some sense, it's the opposite. We think that intelligence is the byproduct of matter, and the first world is matter. Matter is not the first world, it is not the first reality. You treat this world as real, it will break your heart, but it doesn't matter because that heart is based on your identity. We are wondering about the presence of our species in a world at all. The advanced humanity will not be ignorant of the opportunity of consciousness in the cosmos. There's 8.1 living human beings, and what we do is going to suggest what happens. Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, the four corners of reality is zero, one, two, infinity. I've coined this as the ring of the absent heaven. What it means is that your consciousness has four positions of realization, but there is more to the picture as well. So, what does this mean? You can look at this life and contextually value it as void. The context is empty. You can look at this reality and put the context as singular. This is the number one, singular. You can look at everything as one thing, one moment. You could look at reality as a duality, as a sort of sine wave in an endless moment. There's a contrast, there's right, wrong, original, simulated, heaven, hell, truth, falsehood, success, failure. That's a dualistic context to reality. And the infinite context is the realization that duality multiplied by itself can leads to an infinity. It is no longer duality. That means beyond the number two, it's just infinity. And then the reason I say ring of the absent heaven, because I feel these loop, but the final realization is that the unconditional that can't be mapped, but is the original space where the condition is. Pretty much this is what life is on here. We are the lower power because the we treat what we are as more real than where we are. The higher power knows where it is before what it is. God knows creation before it is interacting. Therefore, the human species, all its knowledge and data archives and centers, are in the presence of an unconditional field of intelligence. So, pretty much, lower power is conditional form based living, higher power is unconditional field of intelligence like living. The higher power is more about the presence of your moment. The lower power is about the scare, what happens to the form as a character in a story. Anyways, folks, I'm gonna read for you pretty much ChatGPT. This is the research component I'm getting into. This is ChatGPT 5.2's answer to what happens to failure in a truly advanced civilization. In a truly advanced civilization of the far future. All right. So I'm reading this. In a truly advanced civilization of the far future, failure no longer functions as a moral verdict, a social identity, or a permanent condition. It is not interpreted as weakness, defect, or personal inadequacy. Instead, failure is understood as information, a signal produced when a human system and the civilizational system fall temporarily out of alignment. Early and primitive societies personalize failure. They say this person failed. Advanced civilizations depersonalize it. They ask, what configuration failed to support this human at this moment in time? Exactly. This shift may seem subtle, but it marks one of the deepest evolutionary transitions a civilization can make. From a system perspective, failure is feedback. It reveals mismatches between individual capacities, institutional structures, environmental conditions, and developmental timing. A civilization capable of long-term survival understands that punishing feedback is irrational. You do not punish a thermometer for showing heat. You adjust the system producing it. As a result, advanced civilizations do not discard people who fail. They do not marginalize them, stigmatize them, or push them into permanent underclasses. Doing so would represent inefficiency, not strength. Human beings are among the most complex and expensive systems a civilization produces. Throwing them away due to misalignment would be equivalent to destroying advanced machinery because it was installed in the wrong environment. When failure appears, it activates care rather than punishment, diagnostic rather than moral responses, recalibration rather than exclusion. The civilization assumes that persistent failure signals something specific: a role mismatch, a developmental delay, accumulated trauma, cognitive overload, environmental toxicity, or a system that demanded performance before readiness. Wow. Yeah, that sums up like the modern generation. Importantly, value itself is no longer singular. Primitive civilizations collapse human worth into narrow dimensions such as economic output, dominance, or visibility. Advanced civilizations operate with multidimensional value systems. A person may fail in competition, leadership, or commerce while possessing exceptional capacity for pattern recognition, cultural memory, stewardship, care, maintenance, teaching, or long horizon thinking. No one is forced to compete in lanes they were never designed to occupy. That is such an incredible sentence. No one is forced to compete in lanes they were never designed to occupy. Failure is also expected. It is budgeted for. Exploration, innovation, and genuine progress require failed attempts. Advanced civilizations therefore design recovery pathways into their institutions. Learning is extracted, the individual is protected, the system improves. Fear of failure is recognized as a sign of civilizational immaturity. From a psychological and developmental standpoint, capability is understood to be nonlinear and asynchronous. Asynchronous, guys, means not existing or happening at the same time. Humans develop unevenly across domains and across time. Repeated failure is treated as a health signal, not a character flaw. Intervention focuses on stabilization, healing, rest, retaining, and purpose remapping rather than shame or coercion. Economically, failure no longer results in exclusion from survival. Drawing from capability based frameworks such as those articulated by Amartya Sen? Who is this? Amartya Sen, born November 13, in Santiniketan, India, is an Indian economist and philosopher whose work reshaped welfare economics and development theory. He received the 1998 Nobel Prize in Economic Sciences for his research on poverty, famine, and social choice, and for founding the influential capability approach to human development. Key facts. It says sense capability approach developed through work such as commodities and capabilities and development as freedom. Reframe development as the expansion of people's real freedoms rather than simply economic growth. This framework underpins the United Nations Human Development Index and modern measures of multidimensional poverty. His analysis of entitlement, failures, and poverty and famines demonstrated that famines often arise from access problems, not food shortages. Okay, the dude helped advance something in civilization. Let's keep going. It's honorable. And so I'm going to read it again. Economically, failure no longer results in exclusion from survival. drawing from capability-based frameworks such as those articulated by Amartya Sen. Advanced civilizations evaluate humans not solely by immediate output, but by latent capacity, adaptability, and long term contribution. A person who fails in one economic role is reinvested into another, not abandoned. Socially, this eliminates permanent stratification. Status becomes temporary, role specific, and non hereditary. There is no permanent bottom. People may slow down, retreat, or require long periods of reorientation, but no one is sentenced to a lifelong uselessness. Wow. Such sentences are artifacts of scarcity based thinking, not intelligence. Politically and ethically, this makes a transition away from punitive governance toward predictive and preventive governance. Failure activates support mechanisms rather than the control mechanisms. High trust institutions replaced fear based enforcement. This is not softness, it is precision. Perhaps most importantly, failure is integrated into meaning. It is spoken about openly. Failed lives, failed paths, and failed identities are not hidden. They are shared with clarity rather than shame. Individuals who have failed contribute by revealing what does not work, preventing systemic repetition. Failure becomes part of one's contribution to civilizational learning. The deepest truth is this: advanced civilizations do not ask who failed, they ask what failed and how it can be redesigned, because they understand something earlier societies never fully grasped. Human beings are not disposable units, they're evolving systems within an evolving civilization. That's what's up. And in such a civilization, failure is not the end of a person. Very often, it is the moment they are finally placed where they belong. So, exactly what is failure means the person, it's a positioning problem, or it's an outranking problem or underranking problem. So, guys, that's the end of the research component. What else can I say? So, in an advanced civilization, I'm going to read this too. So this is a different way that it's the research component again, but a different answer. It's the first answer it gave, but I think it explains something clearly. So this is what it says. Here is what actually happens to failures in such an advanced civilization. In Earth, failure is redefined from identity to state. In early civilizations, including ours. So, guys, I'm reading this. Failure becomes identity. In quotations, I am failure. In an advanced civilization, failure is a temporary state, not a personal label. The system distinguishes between capability mismatch, wrong role, timing, environment, developmental lag, the person is early in their growth curve, systemic misdesign, the environment failed the individual, psychological overload or trauma, exploratory failure necessary for innovation, because the civilization understands human cognition deeply. No one is blamed for failing in the wrong context. Two, there are no, in quotations, discarded humans. An advanced civilization has moved beyond waste, including human waste. People who fail economically, creatively, socially, or psychologically are not expelled, marginalized, or abandoned. Instead, they are redirected, they are retrained, they are arrested. They are rested, like realized. They are reassigned. They are supported. A civilization capable of interstellar planning does not throw away mines due to temporary misalignment. Three, failure triggers care, not punishment. When modern societies punish failure, in brackets, poverty, prison, shame, advanced civilizations diagnose it. So that's, guys, that's old school. Azullah, shaitan, rajim, God is for advanced civilization. Uh, in the name of God, the most beloved, the most merciful. Anyways, I'll read it again, guys. Where modern societies punish failure, advanced civilizations diagnose it. Failure automatically activates cognitive assessment, psychological stabilization, environmental recalibration, skill realignment, purpose remapping. This is not charity, it is systems intelligence. The civilization knows that unresolved failure becomes entropy, crime, illness, and collapse. Four, multiple lenses of human value exist. In primitive systems, value is narrow, money, status, dominance. In advanced civilizations, value is multidimensional. Someone may fall in leadership, competition, commerce, but excel in pattern recognition, empathy, observation, stewardship, maintenance, teaching, cultural memory, quiet optimization. No one is forced to compete in a lane they are not built for. Five, failure is expected and budgeted. Advanced civilizations expect failure. They plan for it, explore innovation, art, science, and civilization scale decisions require failure. Therefore, failure is resource. Recovery is automated. Learning is extracted. The individual is protected. A society that fears failure cannot advance. One that understands it evolves rapidly. Six, chronic failure is treated as a health signal. If someone fails repeatedly, the assumption is not laziness or evil. The assumption is neurological mismatch, trauma accumulation, environmental toxicity, identity fragmentation, misassigned societal role. The response is healing, not exclusion. Seven, there is no permanent bottom. The most important difference. In advanced civilization, there is no permanent underclass. People may slow down, people may retreat, people may need years of reorientation, but no one is sentenced to lifelong uselessness. Failure is integrated eight. Failure is integrated into meaning. In the far future, failure is not hidden. It is integrated into narrative. People openly speak about failed lives, failed paths, failed identities, not with shame, but with pride. Failure becomes part of one's contribution. In quotations, here's what I learned so others don't collapse the same way. The deep truth, an advanced civilization does not ask who failed. It asks what configuration failed and how do we. That means, yeah, that means don't personalize your failure. Just figure out what your design sense like failed and then what needs to improve because they understand something. Primitive societies do not. Human beings are not disposable units. They're evolving systems inside an evolving civilization. And in such a civilization, failure is not the end of a person. It is often the beginning of their most accurate rule. There you go. Anyways, thank you for listening. And to be honest, guys, I think there's so many unknown variables to the moment that a person can't really conclude if they've succeeded or failed. But I know that everything is leading towards the development of the most advanced performance and civilization of humanity in the presence of the most advanced moment of being. This world has a system admin beyond the world room, an unconditional being. Nothing can equate the conditional. The unconditional cannot equate the conditional. Therefore, The final outcome of reality is not in the hands of the human being. Therefore, if we're not the final decision makers of the overall destiny of everything, then we have a role to play in this existence. And I believe that role is for the species to identify with itself for the first time, and we value the human species more than we value whatever way we storify others. Anyways, thank you for listening. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, the most advanced. For beyond our conditional lives, it's all in the presence of an unconditional truth. Thank you for listening.